Hi everybody, welcome to Alicia Dianne Art. I'm Alicia Dianne, as you know, or may not know, but welcome to my cartooning animals. We're going to continue doing some drawings and doing some illustrations, and today I'm thinking that everything is going to go nice and smoothly. I have all of the drawings pre-recorded that I did this morning, and I'm just going to be sharing those with you and talking about the process as we go along. Maybe mentioning some of the things that you might be experiencing during this time or might not, but either way we're going to be going ahead and doing that. I'm going to make sure that we are streaming live. We should be streaming live right now. I'm going to share my screen with you in a short little bit, so just give me a moment here. Just want to make sure that everyone is seeing. Oh, okay, it says Alicia Dianne is live now. Perfect. Okay, that's all I really wanted and needed to know. So I will be discussing several things with you guys today, but let's go ahead and go into some of our drawing. I'm going to share my window with you. Let's see if I can do that. Actually, what is this? What is this option? Share. Hold on 1 second. I just want to see what my options are for sharing this window with you. Alright, so let me go to, what's this? And this. Oh, I'm pushing the person wrong thing. Hopefully it's not doing the wrong thing, but I'm going to be sharing this with you. Let me make sure that, I just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys the best option. Alright, well, I think so. What's this? Why is it being weird? Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and pull this up and make sure that you guys can see this, right? Alright. So there's a couple of minutes of, I'm going to be doing rough drawings first. Let's see. Oops, what's this say? Later. Hopefully you guys are saying the right thing. Okay, good. Yay. Okay, so let's, is it playing? No, it's not playing. Go ahead and play. Alright, so here we go. Here's our rough drawing. This is just like what I would do if I was going to do these animals live. I just go ahead and start sketching them, doing some rough loose drawings. Right now I'm just doing some, really I just do like a little Google search. What you can do is you can use any wildlife books that you have, or you can do Google search, Pinterest search. Pinterest is pretty nice because it's like a refined version of a Google search. It would be like whatever you're searching, you know, plus filtered out a lot of the garbage. I didn't do a Pinterest search for this one, but I do like to do a lot of Pinterest searching for my resources because I feel like their images are usually filtered out all of the kind of garbage that you might get on a Google search. Not that Google is garbage, but you know what I mean. There's like a, you have to kind of filter through, I guess. Can you guys see the whole thing? Let me make sure that you guys are actually seeing the entire, is it playing still? Okay. Hopefully you guys can see the whole thing. Not then, I don't know. It looks like, alright, so now I'm just searching to, okay, I think you guys can see pretty much everything that I need you guys to see, so that would be good. Don't want you guys to like not see the images. Let me see if I can, I don't want to mess with it though and like mess it all up and then you won't be seeing anything. Basically though, when I'm doing cartooning animals, it's, there's like, I think I've said this a few times before, but I think it's worth mentioning again. If you don't know how to draw the animal realistically, then it's going to be a lot harder to do a caricature version of it. I mean, it's going to be close to impossible if you don't know what the source is, or if you don't understand what the source is. That's also why we do the realistic drawings that we'll be doing next week, and hopefully we'll do a lot more Um, Longer poses, these are really, really quick poses, just sketching them out, just doing just a rough pass, just getting comfortable. I think that if you just start drawing, you might get frustrated with some of your drawings right away. Maybe you just didn't give yourself a chance to do enough rough passes first, because it takes a couple of minutes, it takes a little bit to get like into your groove or into your flow, or whatever word you might like to use to call it. But it does take a minute to get really comfortable in it, but definitely I believe that you can do it if you just give yourself enough time to get comfortable. And it's the thing with drawing, is like you got to do that with every type of drawing that you want to get really good at. If you want to get good at cartooning, then you have to do a lot of rough passes with the cartooning. If you want to get good at the realism, you have to do a lot of rough passes, and then just go into the longer poses. I think that's really the difference too with doing the rough passes and then like having a really realistic pose. Is just taking the time to render out, but gosh, it's so important that you start with something that you like. If you do several rough passes, pick the one that you like the most, and then go into that longer pose that's going to be the one that you choose for like your portfolio piece or whatever it happens to be. Let's see, I wonder how many flamingos I'm going to draw. There's only a few minutes of my rough passes, but you see that every animal that I caricature today, and I believe there's 4 or 5 of them, each one has a rough path. I did the most with the flamingos because they're my first drawings of the day. I hear though that I was going to tell you guys about my weekend. I didn't do that much. I took some time off. I didn't do almost any drawing for the weekend, but I did hear that the beaches are opening back up, and that's pretty exciting. I'd like to take a drive out to the beach sometime this week. I was planning to do some yesterday, but I ended up doing a lot more. I was making some face masks for the first time. Did my first like rough pass at making face masks. There's a couple of tutorials. There's like too many tutorials now. I think there's like new ones coming up every single day at this point. I think everyone is into crafts. Maybe I should have made a video of face masks instead of drawing flamingos. Maybe that would have been more exciting. I'm drinking coffee. Drinking coffee. Alright, so I mean, one of the things that I wanted to talk about today though, like seriously, on a seriouser note, not that seriouser is a word, but you know what I mean, is staying disciplined with your drawing while we're in the COVID-19. Can I call it COVID-19? I'm officially naming this COVID-19. The COVID quarantine. You probably got that already, but I mean, how do we stay disciplined during like this crisis? I mean, especially if you don't have a professor or anybody to keep you accountable. How are you really going to stay, you know, making sure that you're doing what you need to do during this crisis? I mean, a lot of people are just kind of self-soothing, doing things that just make them comfortable, and drawing can make you uncomfortable, especially if you haven't been doing it regularly. Then how do you stay doing it? How do you keep the motivation to do it? I guess what would be my reason to keep you motivated? Why would you keep doing it? Just because this is a time that you can use. I think this is the perfect time to build your skills, because this is I'm starting doing the caricature now, but because that everyone's in the same situation, this is the perfect time to build your skills, because the world is kind of on a pause right now. It's kind of like doing a reset. So this is a time where you can, you know, take this whole time that we're in quarantine to totally do a head-to-toe makeover for your website, for your portfolio. You can do a entirely redo. Like everything is in redo right now, I feel like. So because everything is in redo, this is the time that you can take to just totally, you know, take a new approach. Like make some new goals for yourself. What is a goal? It's basically a wish, but with a deadline, is how I've been told. It's basically having, this an ideal for yourself, but actually having an endpoint or like a place to get to. So you can go ahead and make this time to write down. I think that's the most important part of making a goal, is writing it down. So if you want to have like maybe 5 to 10 new fully rendered illustrations or fully rendered character designs with poses and everything, I mean, now is a great time to do it. You don't have to make it super, you don't have to make it super complicated. You can just start with, okay, so maybe you have a goal to have 6 new character designs, and each character you're going to do 3 different poses for them. Start doing stuff like this, just to practice. Start with these. Maybe you can do a couple of days of just cartooning animals, and then by the end of the week, say Friday, you just work on doing an entirely new character with 3 poses, and you're going to render them out and do color and everything like that. So that would be one way that you can work on a goal. And make sure that you write your goals down whenever you make a new goal for yourself. If you don't have a website or someplace to post them other than Instagram, that would be another goal to set for yourself. Go to godaddy.com and buy yourself a domain name. It's not that expensive. It's maybe like, a lot of them are like $20 a year, to buy a domain name, and you can attach it to whatever the website is that you're using. There's lots of servers that you can choose from. I use Wix, but you can use anyone that you want. Let me see. And it only costs like a couple dollars. I mean, it's going to cost you something. I mean, that's kind of the part of like, you just have to accept that. It is going to cost you, but it's worth it if you are serious about your art career. If you're serious about actually doing this professionally or semi-professionally, you really need to have your own website and have your own domain name. And those are 2 resources that you can write down and go ahead and go after. I made my flamingo paranoid female in her 40s, and she's reading newspaper about this coronavirus, and somebody, meanwhile, there's a flamingo that just sneezes behind her, and she makes her a little bit nervous. Kind of reminds me of my mom. Like, you probably know somebody that's reading way too much of the news and gets paranoid at everybody sneezing, or gets paranoid at every little cough that somebody has. I think we all know someone like that. If it's not you yourself, probably is you. But anyway, I have my character here. She's doing that. But anyway, what are some other things that you could do? Set up. Okay, so once you have like your big goal, like say your goal is to do like 6 characters with color and 3 different turns. Some of the minor things you can do are the weekly goals. Like I said, even like doing animal caricatures for 5 days this week, and then on the 6th day you actually work on your character design. Another thing could be you're doing figure drawing maybe 3-4 days a week, at least. That could be another, like, what do they call it? A milestone goal, something that you can do that's simple and relatable. Aww, I get ferrets. Those are my favorite animals. And it says what to do if your ferret has diarrhea. I totally didn't see that when I did the Google search, but I don't know. What ferret doesn't have diarrhea? I don't know if there's any. Anyway, let me think of other ways that you can work through this challenge. Another thing that you can do, and one of the things I wanted to do was work on your style. And your style comes by Basically what you copy. I mean, I don't want to say copy, but pretty much it's the skill that you learn plus every artist that influences you is going to reflect in your work. Mostly the drawings that you copy, and every artist copies other artists to practice at some point in some stage in their life. And I used to do that really a lot. I don't think that should be your main source of practicing to draw, but I used to do that a lot. And but I think that was really good for me. I stopped doing it a while ago, actually right before I started going to school for animation, because one of the entrance people told me that, you know, you should never like copy. And I think what she meant to say is you shouldn't have your copies in your portfolio. Your copies are just really for you, for your practice. And I think that was the problem. I had my copy drawings in my portfolio, and they shouldn't have been in my portfolio. They should have just been for me, or for, you know, whoever I wanted to share them with on like a blog, but not as like a portfolio piece. But what I do want to do is, because I realize when you stop doing copying other artists, you start to get outdated. Because I noticed that like my style gets kind of stuck in the 90s, because I guess that was the time when I was copying the most, was like in the 90s, like a lot of the 90s art. And I'll hear people when they look at my portfolio, even like professional people will say, like, you know, it looks a little bit dated, like you're really good at drawing but it looks a little dated. And that's why it's really important that you copy people that are working today, because just to let some of that energy, some of that style kind of sink in subconsciously, because really like your style should be something subconscious. It's just the way that you draw, just like your handwriting. You're not thinking about like the way, you know, when you're doing calligraphy, you know, you're not thinking about it in that way, like to be precise. Once you develop your own style, it's just like your handwriting. But you need to update your handwriting. Just like you can get better from a child who just starts writing to an adult who, you know, who has been trained in doing you know, script and all that. You do develop a better sense of writing, and the same thing happens as an artist, but the only thing is you never really get to the final adult stage. You just keep growing and growing, and part of that is growing your style. And I didn't realize how important this was till I realized that my style is outdated. And that's when I'm like, you know what, I mean, it's fine if I'm just drawing for myself or painting for myself and I don't care about getting work, but because I do want to get work and I do want to keep relevant, I think it is important for me to update my style and have it be something that's continuously growing and adapting, and not to just copy other people to be like them, but to learn from them and to incorporate certain things. Like for a while I was doing a lot of drawings from Moana, the movie. I have the poster right there. She's right there. There. I was doing a lot of, just because I love the movie so much, I just was doing a lot of drawings from the art book. And so I would just draw them. I would just have a sketchbook just for like my Disney drawings, and I just would do all these different Moana drawings. And I realized after doing this for a while that some of the things that I had picked up, some of the things that were in that I was copying, I picked up and adapted to my style. I didn't totally change my style, but I had adapted some of the things that I learned. Like I had adapted a way of doing women's facial features differently that were similar to the style used in Moana, like particularly like noses and lips. I was really incorporating a lot. Even when doing figure drawing, I would notice that I'm incorporating this Moana style into the facial features of the figures, and it wasn't even conscious, it was just subconscious. And that's what I'm trying to say. When you do a lot of copying from artists that you admire, and I don't mean like copy of like you're trying to be like them. In a way you are, but you're trying to be your version of a professional artist, and that's why you have to copy not just one artist but many, so that it's not just like, you know, a rip-off of Glenn Keane or a rip-off of, you know, Jen Kim or somebody like that. It's, you're taking tidbits from each of them, and eventually that will incorporate into your own way of doing things, and that's going to evolve as you continuously learn from other artists and learn from other artists. And I think that's something that you should always continue to do in your career. I didn't believe in this before, but I realize it now. And like I said, if you whenever you stop doing that, especially if you're doing cartooning or animation or whatever, the styles are going to continue to evolve, because, you know, the palette of children's taste in animation changes over the years, and animation studios know that, and they want to keep their work exciting for the next generation. That, you know, babies are born every day. Those babies gotta watch something, and those babies have to play. Even the apps that they play, character designers and animators, you know, have done all that work in those apps and in those ebooks and in those children's books. And kids are always looking for something that's new and exciting. They don't want to like read something that's in the same style as their parents was necessarily in the 90s. Maybe they might like it for a little while, but they definitely want to see like something that's new, that's exciting, and so does everyone else. So that's why you need to keep adapting your style, and that's one of the things that you can incorporate into this time of quarantine. So this part of self-development, this part of self like growth, and this part of self, you know, actualizing. And that's where it's fun too, because you're not just copying everybody that's, you know, relevant today. You're learning and you're emulating the artists that you admire. So I wouldn't tell you like who to pick from. Like, there's hundreds of artists who are out today who are making work, and whoever you choose, just try and choose somebody that's actually selling, who's actually making work, because whatever they're doing is successful. So it could be the latest manga, it could be the latest anime, it could be the latest Disney movie, it could be the latest video game, something that is, you know, successful. Look up the artist who's doing it and try to look at their work on Google or on their website, and just get a sketchbook and just start drawing it. Just start drawing it. Maybe you do one a day, two a day. Just do a couple of them, and you'll start to see. And like I said before, do different artists. Like, maybe pick one at a time. Have one artist of the week or something that you emulate, and you'll be able to see that their like pieces of their style will start to get into your library. It's like all the skills that you learn as an artist, they get stored in like this invisible library in your head, I guess is the best way that I can describe it. All of that information, all of the things that you draw, they get stored into this invisible library, and it all becomes a part of like your toolbox that you can use and you can pick from, and you can, you know, go ahead and go back to. And it's really a cool thing though. It's really a cool thing that you can be able to incorporate so much into your drawing. You practice more, you understand more artists, when you know more artists who you can actually emulate, when you pick up different techniques from different artists, all of that goes, and all of that collaborative information together, along with your own background, all of it mixed together is what really makes your style. So it's not a copy of anybody else's, it's learning from multiple sources, practicing your skills, practicing your life drawing, and incorporating all those things that you learn. I'm out of breath. But hopefully that helps a little bit. Hopefully that helps a lot. But yeah, I think it's a great thing. I'm going to show you guys, if we have time at the end, some other books. Some different resources I want to copy. And this is the book I was talking about. I'm going to copy away from what I'm doing on the actual drawing. Did some barracuda. I did love different animals. Oops. This was the book that I learned a lot from. And I suggest getting these. They got them on eBay for like anywhere between $20 and $40 for these books. in every movie that you love, I guarantee you there's one of these. The art of. So look up the art of whatever book it is. I mean, if you don't have the money to do this, to start collecting books like these now, then that's why God made Google. That's why God made Pinterest. You can look up those resources and just look up the art of, insert your favorite movie or insert your favorite manga or whatever, and make sure you IMDb or whatever and see who the working artist is on that, who the working character designer or storyboard artist or layout artist, you know, whatever it is that you want to learn from, and then Google that person's name. I mean, that's why there's credits on all the movies. All the video games have credits too. You should look them up. It will show you the artist or tell you the artist who worked on them, and that's how you get to find out who your favorite artists are, because, you know, 2-3 years ago, I'm going to say 3 years ago, I didn't know who Jen Kim was, you know, but I looked him up. I looked up Moana and said, who did these amazing drawings? And then I found out who Jen Kim was, and then realized he's one of my favorite artists. These are freaking amazing drawings. Like, they're just amazing. Like, that's so cool. But I can look at him and tell, like, that he was influenced by manga or by anime. Like, there's some things, like, you can see, even though he's doing a Disney style, I can totally see the manga in it. I can totally see, like, the Dragon Ball. Look at this. There's definitely some manga influence. And that's why I say copy from multiple different sources, because even your favorite artists do the same thing. They did the same thing. They copied from different sources. They copied different mangas. Some of them copied painters, and, you know, just have to look them up. Spend a little time and look them up, and you'll start to see. But, like, if you look, take the time to look at some of these things, they're pretty amazing. And take classes. There's lots of online classes now. There's my free animal drawing that I'm doing every Mondays. And you can also, if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, I have hundreds of videos on my YouTube channel. I know it's kind of stagnant right now because of, you know, like we said, but this is also going to be a contribution. All of these Facebook Lives I'm considering part of my YouTube collection. They're pretty new on Facebook Live, but I've been doing it on YouTube for about almost 4 years. I've been doing them on YouTube, so there's 4 years of videos on there, and you guys can, you know, whoever else, you know, I'm not the only one too. I mean, of course I want you to watch my videos, but I'm not the only one. There's lots of other artists also on YouTube that you can watch and learn from. And if you don't know my YouTube, it's youtube.com/Alicia Dianne. You should also be able to get there /Alicia Dianne Art, and that should also take you to my YouTube channel. Alright, so continuing on to this video, there are the Barracuda that I'm doing here. Let's see. He's pretty funny. Oh, funny, but he's just really something to look at. He's something. But like I said, like, finding like the realism in the drawing can be like your best like little tool also. Like, just like practicing that realism and learning. But it's hard sometimes to understand it on your own. I think figure drawing is one of the best ways to kind of get yourself in the flow of realistic drawing, I guess I could say. Also, but that's if you want to do character design or like character art. If you'd like to do full scene illustrations, then you gotta do the backgrounds too. You gotta do like buildings and learn your perspective, even if you want to do comics, man, like I'm learning now doing these comics, there's so much background stuff to do, especially if you want to do like some kind of what's the word I would use, like a specific scene or a specific location, on location art. Yeah, that's what I meant to say, on location. If your comic is like on location, if you're doing comics and you want to do comics and you want to do something that's on location, there's going to be so much background stuff to do, and that's one of the things I had to learn the hard way. There's so much background stuff to do, so really practice your perspective and practice your architecture. It's a really important part of it that we don't always realize right away. It's really important. It's a really important part of it, so I would definitely highly recommend getting some practice in that. If you can't, I mean, obviously we're not able to do as much. I'm sorry, I'm watching Tarzan in the background. Not able to do as much, but we can still do a lot. We can still do a lot. I mean, you can look out your window, you can look on the internet, you can, I mean, the parks are closed, but I mean, just try and be creative with it. I mean, try and see, like, what's around, what are things that, you know, you can look at, what are the books that you have in your collection, you know, what do you have as a resource already that you can use as your sort of inspiration to draw from. I'm sure you have lots of things that you didn't even maybe realize that you had already. So maybe you can start to use some of those as like some inspiration or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Like something to help you get that edge, I guess. I don't know. Trying, man. Trying to keep you guys going with these. You know what I'm saying? But just try your best to think outside of the box. Another book I got was this, The Art and Flair of Mary Blair. And she was an artist in the 1950s era. And she did a lot of the visual development art. I don't think they even called it visual development art back then. For not just like Disney movies, but Disney parks when they were just opening up. She helped Walt Disney design probably one of the famous rides, like the most famous rides in Disneyland, which is It's a Small World. She did the artwork for designing It's a Small World, including all the children, things like that. There's a lot of people that copy and emulate her style. Three Caballeros she did. Which, you know what, this is another example of what I was talking about before, and that's just copying art that inspires you. I mean, if you look at Mary Blair, like for me, looking at Mary Blair, I can see immediately what inspired her. Like, all I see when I look at Mary Blair is folk art. Like, that's what I see when I see her, because it's so much emulates folk art. Like, if you look at Mexican folk art, South American folk art, Caribbean folk art, you'll see there's a lot of, like, you can see that she was looking at a lot of these as her inspiration, and probably did a lot of copying of these different artists herself. Probably had a huge, I don't know personally, but I would guess she had a big collection of folk art from the Central and South America, and from even like Caribbean America possibly, but definitely Central and South America, because her work is heavily inspired by folk art. And her early art actually was a lot inspired by classic art, and I could see like she really copied classic art in her early years. Like, if you look at that, it doesn't even look like a Mary Blair, but like I said before, like your style evolves. You have to let it evolve. Like, look at the most famous artist of all time, probably is Pablo Picasso, right? He went through many phases with his style. He wasn't always making like cubism his whole life. He did all kinds of different things. Like, he first started like with the realism and like trained and did all these different variations. So don't be afraid to let your style evolve. If there's anything I want to get across to you guys today, it's don't feel like once you have a style, that's your style and that's your style for life, because it's not. It's your style for now. It will evolve. Let your style evolve and you'll be a better artist for it. I'm telling you, you will be. You will be. You will be. You will be. You will be a better artist for it if you let your style evolve. And the only way to let your style evolve is to really emulate other artists. Many of them that you admire. Look them up and just sketch and practice and copy. Do copying. I would say copy until it becomes yours. Copy until it's yours. It's my best advice. Copy until it's yours, and then you won't be copying anymore. But I think, speaking of copying, I want to do a lot of copies of Facebooks because I haven't yet. I have not. But like, but that's the thing, when you copy, you'll be able to copy and do something that's totally different. Like, look at this. Like, this are these little fat ballerina babies. That's a totally copy. This is Mary Blair's art, but that's a total copy of like that artist. I'm not really good with artist names. I always get annoyed with people that like can shout out every artist ever made. But there's this one artist from like the late 1800s who just was like obsessed with ballet dancers and would draw ballet dancers all the time. He did a lot of pastels and things like that. But just looking at these little baby ballerinas that she has, she was clearly copying this guy. But it's not a bad thing. It's like you're learning and then you're able to make something your own. So even though that guy that was doing all the ballerinas was doing like young girls, like maybe 10 years old, like she used total complete babies, but the colors that she used, let me see, painting, Degas, that's his name. He would do all these like ballerina paintings, and like I can clearly see that Mary Blair was inspired by that. And that's okay. Let me see if I can find the original. That looks like this one. Like he did like girls from age, like I said, from age 10 up until like the professional ballerinas that were like 20s, in the 20s or whatever. Can't find the particular one I'm looking for. Ballerinas. He was obsessed with these ballerinas. Like, if I show you this, like look at the colors and everything on this painting. Look at the color and the pastel and everything. You see that? This is the Degas painting, or pastel, and then I'll show you like the Mary Blair version, which is, I think as far as color and concept goes, it's really similar. she just added her own unique twist to it, which you can do it once you practice enough in different styles. But look at these. Like, you can't tell me this is not from a folk art market. Like, look at that. That's so, I think it's amazing though. I love it. I think it's great. I think she just took all of these different inspiration and like made it into herself. Like, she was doing all these portraits of South Americans and things like that, and like she just incorporated their own artistic style into what she was doing. Not to distract you guys too much from my main drawing. I was making this barracuda, this villainous barracuda who is wicked and old and mean and all those things. But right. He's doing a magic spell or something like that. But even her color schemes are really cool. Like all of these dramatic colors. Like check out this one. I'll show you guys. There. This one. It's just like black and red with this bright yellow dress and the popping in the front. I think that's very cool. Because it's such a contrast. I mean, like black obviously would be the darkest hue, and yellow is like the brightest color that we can find. So just having that contrast is so crazy. So it just makes it pop out of the page. And here, this is the final character that I did. I'm doing some rough drawing first just to get like that, just to get that that life onto the page, you know. So that was my first major. Like I said several times already, just getting that first initial sketch is just really important. It just loosens up your hand, loosens up your eye. I think it's an even better way to explain it. It just loosens up your eye to like be able to draw these great caricatures, you know? My mom. I wanted to see if that actually worked. Apparently there's sound effects on this app. So, like I said, guys, just keep practicing your drawings, you know? So inappropriate, but I know that you guys don't mind, right? You guys still love my drawings. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. Alright, so while I'm drawing over there, I'm going to be also looking up some more of these images here. And like I said, this book is called The Art and Flair of Mary Blair. And this is cool. Like, look at these crazy colors. Like, it gives you ideas too, because colors that you might not necessarily think of, colors that wouldn't necessarily be in nature, like, if you look and see, like, how other artists use them, you'll be able to incorporate that. Like, you can actually use whole color palettes of other artists and apply it to a completely different drawing that you have and paint it in their color scheme, like, and it's your painting. That will be completely yours. Like, taking someone else's color scheme is not stealing. It kind of is, but it's not any sort of copyright infringement unless you're doing a character, you know, you're doing another, like, it's like, I don't know, it might get weird if you're doing like a character design and you use all the same colors as someone else. That might be a little bit weird. You might want to, like, it would be weird to see like another character. Well, I don't know, maybe I'm just being dramatic. But taking someone else's color scheme and applying it to a completely new work that is unlike theirs is not stealing at all. it's learning from their color palette and practicing with it. Practice with other people's color palettes. You might be really surprised at what you'll get from that. Like, you can get some really like nice results if you practice. Anyway, I'm gonna keep going. Why does this look like Jay-Z to me? It doesn't look like Jay-Z right here. I was walking down the street. Maybe once he's old. I don't know. Something about the swagger of this guy. Anyway. I would not do impersonation, I guess. I don't know. But also, every time that you're doing arts, also think about, even when you're using other color schemes, like, practice with the complementaries. Try to find the complementary colors in other people's work. That's become like a fun game to me. Is trying to find the complementary colors in other people's work. Like here, even though there's more than just the complementary colors, the red is right next to the green in this image. Like, you can see it's right next to each other. If you don't know complementary colors, get yourself a color wheel. Complementary colors are always opposite each other on the color wheel. And there's the, what do they call it, triadic? Is that what it's called? No, it's called a triad. Triadic. I was close. Maybe they're called triadic complementaries. But anyway, there's the complementary colors, which are opposite each other, and then there's the triad, which would be the triangle of three colors that are complementary, such as our primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow. Red, blue, and yellow are always complementary to each other because they, I don't know what exactly does it, but because they are the only colors that can't be made, and they are our source of every other color, they are automatically are complementary to each other, and they show up as a triad on the color wheel. Yellow, red, and blue will be a triad of complementaries. So you'll see that a whole lot. If you ever take a color theory class, which I suggest that you do, I mean, there's plenty of color theory videos on YouTube. I don't have a color theory video. I don't consider myself that great with color yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better with my colors. But there's plenty of videos on YouTube. I think it's even better if you take a color class, a color theory class, and really start to be, because color takes a while to get. I mean, drawing takes a while to learn, but color and drawing are two different things. And you can learn that the easy way, or you can learn that the hard way. But color is a whole other concept. Unlike drawing, it's not the same as drawing. It's not drawing. It's an entirely other skill set. And I would say to practice that just as much as you practice painting if you want to do things that are involved with that. Like, if you want to do something like visual development or concept art, you got to know your colors just as well as you know how to draw. I mean, it kind of sucks, right? Some people are just really naturally kind of good, but most people are not. I'd say just like drawing, it takes practice. You have to learn how to get good at it. It takes a while to get good at it, but the more you practice, the more you look at other people's art and see what they're doing that's complementary, the better you'll be able to emulate. And tell you, emulate as much as possible. I mean, copying, but emulating other artists and learning from them is going to be like a major tool for you. And then you'll just be able to like do freehanding stuff on your own. But like I'm doing here with this bear, this ballerina bear. You know, it totally, I wasn't even looking at any ballerina reference or resource. I just made it up out of my head. How do you make stuff up out of your head? By copying a lot and by practicing a lot. Just regular stuff. Just like, it just becomes part of that library, that memory bank in your head that just, and you can just start, you know, doing it from the top of your head without having a ballerina resource. Maybe just having that bear and just be able to make things up off the top of your head. But practice drawing other people's characters, practice drawing other people's caricatures, and after doing that for a while, you'll be able to do many more of your own off the top of your head. Just popping them out just like this, without having to think too much about it. Alright. Let's see. I would really love to get some books of old time illustration, because like this one right here to me really looks like an old time illustration. You can see the one where like the boy is with his lamb or whatever at the, it's like a milk shed or something. I don't know how you can have a milk shed, but that looks like very much like 1800s illustration to me. I can see that she was inspired by that in this picture. It just so much. I love this. I love the art of Cinderella. I think it's one of my favorite movies of all time, Cinderella. I love the movie. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I think that's great. I'm gonna copy some of these. I'm gonna copy plenty of them. I'm gonna copy all of them and add them all to my library. But like you can see, like colors that are right next to each other on the color wheel, like immediately next to each other, are also complementary. Like blue with blue green with blue violet. If you just use those three colors only in a painting, and it will look really pretty. Just because they're all in the same family. Colors that are immediately next to each other, like three colors next to each other, will automatically also be complementary because they are within the same family. Let's see. What else can I do? Let's get show you guys. But you can see here I'm cleaning up my character. She's my last one, so I wanted to do a little bit of cleanup. I didn't do like full color and all of that. But I just wanted to do like something a little bit more finalized line that would be a little bit more fun. I thought it would be a little bit more fun, and I wanted to just do a little bit furry. My furry bear. But even though like the style of like say Mary Blair is not like the same as the actual final movie would be, because hers was like this, you can still see how they incorporated her drawings into the final design. Like the final like Alice in Wonderland didn't look like this, but you can still see how that inspired scenes and stuff like that. Actually, they show, speaking of the double, they actually show right here on this page how like it inspired one from the other. Like there's her drawing, and then they show like the final drawing from the movie, like Mary Blair, and then the final movie frame. Like that's pretty cool, like to see them side by side like that. Let me see. But there's like tons of different, and this is just one book. I have, how many of these now? I have three of these movie books. Well, actually the Mary Blair is not a movie book. Hers is, her. I also want to get Ivan Earl. He is the visual development artist from Sleeping Beauty. He did a lot of like the background art. He's amazing. I love his art. He really has dramatic. He really likes to do black on bright. So like he'll have black on violet, black on green, and he'll have lots of like really contrasty art. You can see if you look him up. Ivan Earl. It's Ivan. I think it's EYVAN. EARLE, 2 words. Ivan the first name, and Earl is his last name. He's really a great artist to look up. Like, I think you guys will really like him if you look him up. But anyway, wow, I already finished my reference drawing. There it is. I already finished my drawings. Oh, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this version of cartooning animals. It was different than the other versions, but I think it was very effective because I really think that having the pre-recorded drawing let me to share more with you guys, and also to, you know, take away any of the lagging that was an issue before. And I'm just really grateful that you guys are able to watch with me and to learn with me about keeping yourself busy and motivated during this crisis, and also giving yourself some goals. And one of the goals is updating your style. That's one of my goals anyway. Is updating my style, and the best way I think to do that is to find some of your favorite influences and just practice emulating them. Like, you're just doing this, all of the copying that you do is going to be for your own reference, for your own, like, it's not for your portfolio, it's just for your own reference. You can put them on your social media, just credit the original artist, say, hey, I'm practicing my style. This one is my version of Mary Blair. And, you know, as long as you credit the artist, if you share your images, nobody's going to discredit you. People are going to say, oh, that's cool, you know, you're learning something, and, you know, you're learning a new artist, or you're, you know, getting inspiration from this artist. Nobody is going to discredit you for that. So I think that it's important to do that and just share whoever the resource is, and just say, you know, this person inspires me, and people will, like, you might be surprised at, you know, the support that you get. But anyway, that is the end of our session for today. I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this channel, and I will be sharing these videos hopefully soon on YouTube. But in the meantime, you guys can see the library of videos that I have there, and you guys can also check out my new videos that I'll be posting on Facebook Live until, you know, I start reposting them to YouTube. So thank you guys again so much for watching. Be grateful, live balanced, and be yourself. I'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.